We had a look at the men's pursuit final with Great Britain's Sean Wallace facing Denmark's Dan Frost. And here's how it works. The riders start on opposite straightaways, and the race is 12 laps. The winner either catches his opponent or is the first rider to finish those 12 laps. Dan Frost from Denmark, riding for Team Lycra, a new addition to the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix. He's an Olympic champion in the points race, and he fought back from a first-half deficit to score a convincing win. Very smooth, riding a double disc wheel, very aerodynamic bike here. High-tech pursuit racing. Dan Frost taking the gold medal in the men's pursuit. Timing, as always, for the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix of Cycling, supplied by Event Services out of Denver, Colorado, leaders in the field of timing events. We're getting ready for the men's match sprint final third ride. You couldn't ask for more as it goes to a third and deciding ride here at the 7-Eleven Olympic Velodrome. Looking at the second ride, Ken Carpenter in the pink and white of Celestial Seasonings, number 86, and Kurt Harnett, number 84, trying to get around him in the middle of the turn on the outside. He had a longer ride to the finish line and could not get there first. Ken Carpenter evened the score on the second ride. That's why we're getting ready for ride number 3 to determine the gold medal here in the men's match sprint. And there they are, Ken Carpenter on the inside, closest to the camera. He reaches for the handlebars, indicating that he's ready. And just above him, Kurt Harnett getting his final preparations made for this all-important deciding ride for the gold medal. Thomas, what can we expect? We've seen them swap victories 1-1.
Boy, this is going to be a tough one to call. They are so evenly matched. In the first one, Kurt Harnett rode a very good tactical race and won it. In the second one, Ken Carpenter came back, rode very strong and very smart, and he took it. So they're just so evenly matched. It's just hard to tell what is going to come between these two riders.
Should they stay in the infield and flip a coin?
No, they shouldn't. They're out here on the track, and this is where they want to be. These guys are they're competitors. They're fighters. They're chariot racers out here.
There's Ken Carpenter. A good look at the man who's about 6'5", about 225 pounds, La Mesa, California, down in the San Diego area. And Kurt Harnett, Thunder Bay, Ontario. What a great place to be from if you're a thundering big guy like Kurt is. He rode the kilometer time trial and the match sprints in the Olympic Games for Canada.
Now, in the earlier rides, we saw Kurt leading it. And this one, of course, now Ken has to lead it for the first lap. It'll be interesting to see if Ken tries to maintain that leading position and that control position.
We should note that they draw for position before the first ride. They switch for the second ride, and then if a third ride is necessary, they redraw. Number 1 starts at the bottom of the track. In this case, it was Carpenter, and is obliged to lead the first lap unless voluntarily overtaken by his opponent, and that has already passed by. And Harnett seems content with the rear position for now.
I would say that that's good for Ken Carpenter, because Ken won from the front before. I mean, he came down as the sprint started and got in control of the situation, and I think that's what he really wants to maintain. So this should be interesting to see if Kurt does rides from behind.
Well, Kurt Harnett won from the front as well, so it seems that both of them prefer that front position. So I don't believe we're going to see any standstill action here. Carpenter is in the lead position. You can see him riding while looking back. There's 1 lap to go right now. Harnett is drawn right up to his rear wheel with a full lap to go.
Okay, they're going into it, and they're really starting the sprint early, and this is the Razor sprint. They both like this, accelerating. They've crossed the 200-meter line to start the sprint.
Ken Carpenter looked like he was holding a little something back right there, and now he's really launched it, and they're in the straightaway. Carpenter's in the lead, but Harnett slingshots around the outside. A long lead-out sprint by Ken Carpenter, and Kurt Harnett had the snap to come around. He congratulates himself and his opponent. Kurt Harnett winning the gold medal that eluded him in Houston. Let's take another look at this replay here. Harnett behind Carpenter.
Well, you know, when you look at these guys and the way they just muscle that bike, now they're not even in the full 100% sprint at this point. Now they go. You can see Ken Carpenter accelerating right there with Kurt Harnett coming around. I mean, watch it. Look at how these guys muscle their bikes.
It's amazing that they're able to keep control. And there you can see that Ken Carpenter just faded a bit, and Harnett had that extra ounce to come by. Ken Carpenter pushing himself all the way down into the infield with the effort that he's making. There's the margin of victory, a half a bike length for Kurt Harnett of Team Lycra, winner of the men's match sprint, taking it 2-1 over Ken Carpenter. You're watching the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix of Cycling on ESPN. Olympic Velodrome, Brian Drebber and Thomas Pren up here in the booth, but down in the infield, the winner of the men's match sprint, Kurt Harnett, Team Lycra. First, congratulations, Kurt. Job well done. Ken Carpenter seems to be tactically coming around a bit, but you had enough to beat him. Tell us how it went.
Well, the first two sprints were just basically tough sprints. It's the usual Ken Carpenter, Kurt Harnett sprint, I think, where the guy leading with a lap to go usually takes the win. In our final sprint, it was a long sprint, and it was just the fact that I was able to sit on him for most of the lap and come around him at the end.
Let's take a look at it.
Well, you watch. This is the back straight. We're coming down the back straight. Like at this point in time, Ken's been going for a full lap already. Not necessarily 100%, but we've been kicking hard. He comes up high on me, and as we're coming down the home straight, it's kind of, I just gave it that final little kick. And as you notice, we're still kind of antsy, going all over the place. We're both really tired. It was it was pretty quick between the two rides. Between the second ride and the third ride. I mean, I'm happy that I won. It was just a long sprint, and that's what we get for riding each other every weekend of the, out of 7 weekends, we're going to find each other riding each other, I'm sure most of those weekends, and you just get to know how each other rides.
Okay, Kurt, now, were you concerned on that third ride? You had the second position going into the sprint, very similar to the second ride that you lost. Were you concerned about that?
Well, I was not concerned because the speed that I was behind him at was different. In the second ride, when I was coming around him, or when I was coming behind him, coming through with a lap to go, going into the first corner, he had a little bit more distance on me than he did this time. And I was a little more content with sitting on and attempting to come around him on the home straight. I had just a better position in this third ride than I did in the second ride.
Kurt Harnett, thanks very much, and congratulations for a job well done and a gold medal this week. A little earlier, the women racing here in Los Angeles on the Olympic Velodrome, and in the men's match sprint, Connie Young and Kurt Harnett doing a fine job in taking those gold medals.
That's right. It was a convincing ride from Connie Young. She's won 2 in a row now. Kurt Harnett, he wins one here. He redeems himself after that terrible mishap down in Houston.
The only thing that wasn't terrible about it was he didn't crash, and here he cashed in on a gold medal. Let's take a look at some of the other results. In the women's sprint, Connie Young, Renee Duprel in the final for gold. Janie Eickhoff wins the bronze medal over Australia's Julie Spate. In the men's match sprint, Harnett and Carpenter meet again, with Harnett getting the best of it. Paul Swift takes Mark Gorski for the bronze medal in the 3rd and 4th place ride. In the Kieran event, Paul Swift takes a gold to go along with the bronze from the sprints. Nelson Vales and Steve Stonebreaker rounding out the top 3. And in the men's pursuit, Denmark's Dan Frost takes Sean Wallace for the gold medal final. Brian McDonough, here in Southern California, his home, wins the bronze over Jim Pollock, his teammate. And in the men's missing out, it was Sean Wallace, the Englishman, for the Wheatie Schwinn team. Manuel Yoshimats from Mexico, and Dan Frost from Denmark, 1, 2, 3. Fans of Los Angeles, Kurt Harnett held off Ken Carpenter in a close 3-ride men's sprint final. The Sundance Tour got its first good look at the power of Danish Olympic gold medalist Dan Frost as he took the individual pursuit. And Nelson Vales put us in the middle of the action of the men's missing out as Sean Wallace survived a field of 38. Today we're in San Diego for the 3rd leg of the Sundance Grand Prix of Cycling on ESPN next. From San Diego, California, ESPN presents the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix of Cycling from the San Diego Velodrome. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Drever, and we're in the third stop of a 7-event series that'll culminate in a grand final in Trexlertown, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Working with me, 8-time U.S. national team member, former U.S. pro champion, Thomas Pren. Thomas, we've had 2 events already, very different, each from the other. Here we are with number 3, the rubber match.
That's right. The series is really developing nicely for the competitors. We started off in Houston. We had the Soviets matched up against the Americans. The Americans won every single event. We came to Los Angeles, and it was really a team battle. It was Team Lycra against the rest of the Americans. Team Lycra dominated. We're here down in San Diego, and it's a whole new ball game.
So we're getting ready for yet more great action, and let's take a look at some of the highlights and our matchups for today. In the women's match sprint, Connie Young advancing very smoothly in 2 straight rides. Australian Julie Spate, no match for her.
No, really, Connie Young is just doing exceptional right now. She's really riding strong.
And in the other half of the final 4, Renee Duprell from Bellevue, Washington, here in the Pink Weight Watchers jersey, had no trouble with young Jane Eichhoff either.
Really, Renee is a real fast rider, but she knows that she's got a long way to come to beat Connie Young.
So our matchup in the women's match sprint final today, a rematch of last week and of the Olympic trials. Connie Young of the Sundance Juice Sparkler team, Renee Duprell of Weight Watchers in the women's match sprint final. On the men's side, in the semifinal pairings, Kurt Harnett, powerful, fast, last week's winner, had no trouble again this week.
Well, that's right. Kurt advanced very easily in this one, and he's looking very, very strong.
He's always a dominating rider. Kurt Harnett over Steve Phillips, 2 straight. And in the other half of the pairing, Ken Carpenter, the American who went to the Olympics in 1988, again looking very good against the 84 Olympic champion Mark Gorski.
Now this is Ken's home track. This is actually where he started, so he has the home court advantage on this. It's going to be a really good matchup.
So in the men's match sprint, Ken Carpenter of Celestial Seasonings, Canadian Kurt Harnett of Team Lycra, and they will go at it head-to-head. In the men's individual pursuit, Sean Wallace of Great Britain, Dan Frost of Denmark, another international matchup in the pursuit final. And on the women's side, Katie Horton of the United States and Elaine Gomez from Austin, Texas, All-American final in the women's pursuit. All that and more. We've got the men's missing out, the exciting Kieran event, one I think you'll like. We certainly do. And so we've got a lot of great cycling coming up. Be sure to stick around. All that and more on ESPN. Coming up. Don't go away. In Balboa Park, San Diego Velodrome, near the world-famous zoo, is a 1/3 of a kilometer in length and 28-degree maximum banking here, although the track is a little narrow, only a little over 18 feet wide. Most tracks are about 22 feet wide. That could be a factor. The weather, beautiful, bright, sunny skies, temperature in the mid-70s, breezy, gusting winds up to 27 miles an hour on occasion, and that could be a factor in the race here today. Again, mostly sunny, beautiful day for cycling. In the match sprint competition, 3-lap race between 2 riders who draw for position prior to the start of their first ride. The last 200 meters of the final lap are timed, mostly for comparison reasons. The first rider across the finish line wins, but a rider has to win twice in this 3-race series in order to take the gold medal. Our matchup in this first ride, Connie Young of the Sundance Juice Sparkler team. She drew that pole position and is now leading out at a minimum of walking pace. Renee Duprell in the Pink Weight Watchers jersey behind her in this first of the 3 laps, Thomas Pren, that we will see.
That's right. You know, Connie has been riding very, very strong for the whole series, and she's getting faster and faster. She's working more on her speed with each event. So she's going to be getting faster as the race gets on.
She has a tremendous amount of experience. One thing that occurred to me today, we have in our competition here in the final 4, 18-year-old Jane Eichhoff, and Connie Young has been racing for 18 years.
That puts it into perspective. She does have a lot of experience, a lot of international experience, too. She was talking about how, Renee has beat her this year in some earlier competitions. And so Connie knows that she can't just sit back. It's not a given thing that she's going to win this at all, by any means.
She has extremely good tactics, but I'd say that Renee Duprell, if someone is going to challenge for the throne that Connie Young now holds, not only as the Sundance champion, the national champion, the Olympic representative, and everything else that has gone along with her great career, 3 world championship titles, but Renee Duprell is really starting to come on. Renee Duprell from Bellevue, Washington, now makes her home here in Southern California, lives and trains at this track and also Dominguez Hills in Los Angeles, just miles north of here. She's 22 years old compared to 27 years old for Connie Young. They're halfway through the race, lap and a half to go. Still Connie Young rolling along at better than a walking pace, but not very fast yet.
Now, because this is Renee's home track, that's going to give her a little bit of an advantage, and hopefully she'll be able to know how to ride the track better. She knows that it's a narrower track. She knows the banking. She knows how far it is from the last corner to the finish line. So we got the bell now.
1 lap to go. A gust of wind coming down the home stretch, right into the riders' faces for the finish. And Connie Young controlling the race from the front, dancing along on the pedals. Renee Duprel making a run at her, closed almost half the distance with an eye blink, and now draws even in the middle of the backstretch. Connie Young takes her a little high, and now begins to move down. Renee Duprel leaning. Oh! Two riders leaning on each other up there and up against the fence and down on the track. Connie Young sitting upright, holding on to her forehead. Renee Duprel lying on the track.
Well, what that was is, we certainly hope they're all right, but what that was Renee was trying to come around, and Connie was forcing her up the track, and she wasn't backing off. Perhaps they hooked handlebars, but Renee was wasn't backing down at all.
Renee was leaning down, Connie was leaning up. Let's see if we can take a look at it on replay here and find out what happened with only about 100 meters to go. Now, this is the backstretch, and Renee Duprel jumped very quickly and draws even with Connie, and into the turn is where they start getting into trouble right here, leaning on each other.
They're leaning on each other. Now, right there, you can see that they're actually bumping into one another, and it looks as though that they're going up the track, and now Renee on the top starts to lose control, and the two are actually hooked handlebars.
Yes, they did. It was definitely Connie Young's handlebars getting hooked. Her front wheel pointing down the track, goes down hard, and they just hooked up. There you can see Renee Duprel taking a really bad tumble, tangled up in her bike. Keep in mind that the feet are strapped into the pedals or clipped in solidly to the pedals, although a 17-pound bicycle is really not going to affect the trajectory, if you will, of a 125-pound human being. It looks like at least Connie Young is up and okay, but Renee Duprel still down on the track, shaken up. We're getting ready for the men's sprint final here at the San Diego Velodrome, but here's what just happened in the women's sprint final. Connie Young, bottom of the screen, Renee Duprel on top, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder, heading for the fence, Thomas, and
That's right.
Down they go.
Yeah, they just, it looks like they hit handlebars, and Connie Young just lost control of the wheel and fell into Renee.
Both riders are up and okay, but on the track right now, Ken Carpenter. Renee Duprel was slow getting up, and Renee and Ken are very close friends, training partners, and you have to wonder what's going through the mind of Ken Carpenter as he gets ready to face Kurt Harnett from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. This is a rematch from last time, and last time it was Kurt Harnett getting the best of it. Let's see how they do here today.
Well, these two riders are obviously very close competitors now. It seemed what we saw in the qualifying rounds was Ken Carpenter doing an incredible sprint. In fact, when he came off of the fourth corner, he actually sat up and stopped sprinting. He was so far ahead of his competitors. And still, even though he even coasted down the finish line, he was still clocked a very fast time.
Well, just over the last couple of weeks, he's really developed an aura of almost being impossible to beat. In fact, we talked to him about exactly that. He's the man to beat.
Well, I'm riding very well for this time of year, and I feel stronger than I did last year. And, you know, we'll just see how it goes. I hope for some good things at World Championships and just try to put it together for that race.
We're a long way from the World Championships, and we're about 2.5 laps from the finish line in this first ride between the two for the gold medal in the Sundance Juice Sparkler Grand Prix here in San Diego. Ken Carpenter leading slowly around the backstretch, hopefully able to put out of his mind the crash, not only because it involved another rider, but it involved Renee Duprel, who was very close to.
Well, you know, actually what it might end up doing is just adding enough adrenaline, that much more adrenaline in his system, and you know, he could be a real tough one to beat in this one. This is his home track, too. He started out racing here.
What a difference a week might make. Now, Kurt Harnett looked very, very strong. In fact, if you had to say there was a dominant rider between these two last week, it was Kurt Harnett. But Ken has just looked super sharp this week, not only in the qualifying rounds, but in the semifinals and right up to where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He is
awesome. The word, I think, overused, but one that might apply.
He's he has this aura of power around him.
Even Mark Gorski, as formidable an opponent as he has been, you know, to riders in the past, Mark Gorski was just unwilling to even contest the race in the semifinals against Ken. Ken Carpenter now looks over the wrong shoulder, looks over his left shoulder. Kurt Harnett just caught him looking. Ken went down the track, looked to the inside, and Kurt saw him and went right up over the outside, and just like a rocket ship, look at the gap he's opened. Coming up on a lap to go, and a huge lead for Kurt Harnett.
Well, it's a long way for them to go. These guys are sprinters. They're not used to sprinting it for 2 laps. And you can see that now Kurt Harnett has got it. Ken Carpenter has just conceded. He is sitting up. So really, he's not going to have to even sprint to the finish. The race is over right now.
So Kurt Harnett backs it out right here, and I guess if you had to say caught with your pants down, figuratively speaking, that's what happened to Ken. Looked over his left shoulder, and Kurt went high to the right.
That's right. Absolutely fabulous move by Kurt Harnett. Really a good move, and Ken was just looking in the wrong direction, and that was it.
Very opportunistic by Kurt Harnett. Leads now 1-0 in the gold medal. Let's take a look at this. It was with a long way to go in the race. There's Ken Carpenter in front now. He goes down the track. Watch him look over his left shoulder, and boom, Kurt Harnett's off to the races.
Right around the right-hand side, and also Kurt Harnett comes down the banking, and so he can accelerate down the banking. So he got a tremendous jump on him.
So there's the big man from Thunder Bay, Ontario, leads 1-0 in this final for the gold medal. Let's take yet another look at it. Our cameras are all over this one. Now here's Ken high on the fence. Comes down to the bottom of the track, expects Kurt to be down low, looks over his shoulder, and Kurt's gone. So Ken Carpenter down from a 1-0 deficit. Kurt Harnett leads this one for the gold. On the track right now, we're in the men's sprint final for 3rd and 4th here at the San Diego Velodrome. And on the track, on the inside in the pole position, Steve Phillips, who now makes his home in Houston, Texas, born in South Carolina, lived in North Carolina, a swimmer at the University of North Carolina. He finds himself in the bronze medal final against the gold medal man from 1984 Olympic Games, Mark Gorski, riding for Team Sundance. These two were the losers in the semifinal round. They meet for the bronze medal, the consolation race, if you will, for 3rd and 4th place.
And Steve Phillips is a great story. Now, this young man, when we saw him down in Houston, he didn't have a sponsor. He was riding sponsorless and really not even sure if he was going to be able to continue the entire series. And since then, Coors Light has picked him up, and he's here racing against Mark Gorski.
Steve Phillips lives in Houston. He was able to make the first stop on our tour because it was a local stop. He is a coach in the developmental program at the Houston Velodrome, the Alkek Velodrome. First stop on our Sundance Juice Sparkler Tour this year. And since then, as a new and only member of the Coors Light track cycling team, he is on his way here right now in the Final 4 against Mark Gorski, circling slowly on the track. Again, the front rider, the pole position rider, leads the first lap at a minimum of walking pace unless voluntarily overtaken by the other one. After one lap, they can slow down, stop in an effort to take the rear position on this very round track here. I think it's difficult and different for the riders to go from a track in Los Angeles where the straightaways are not long, but longer, to this track, which is almost circular.
Right, this is almost a round track, and all of the riders talk about this, particularly the sprinters. It's actually a great track for something like pursuit where you go steady the entire time. But in a sprint, you actually have to, you're accelerating into those last 2 corners, and it's very tough because it seems like it's shallow banking.
I was going to say, another point to make here is not only is the banking relatively shallow at 28 degrees, but the track is narrow, so that doesn't give you much acceleration off the banking.
That's right. Now this is, Mark Gorski is very anxious to start getting some real solid results here at the Sundance. He started off a little bit slow this season. He admitted that he really hasn't been doing as much track training as he has in the past, and he's really riding himself into fitness now. So he's anxious to get on a roll now.
Well, he's had things that we all concern ourselves with outside of our athletic careers, perhaps, or whatever our job might be. married with a young family. He is moving now back to Southern California, has in fact moved to Southern California, back to Newport Beach from Indianapolis, so he's been going through the whole getting a loan and finding a truck to get his furniture moved and things. There are distractions out there in the world.
Yeah, that's right. And it is a distraction for an athlete like this to spend so many hours a day training and having to worry about finding a house and getting a loan.
He has someone to take care of his bike. He has someone to take care of giving him a massage and taking care of his daily needs, but he couldn't find anybody else to make the arrangement. He had to go and sign for the loan. Mark Gorski, halfway through this race, trailing Steve Phillips right now, although that's not significant. Going very slowly thus far. Steve Phillips looked as though he was going to stop and try to move to the rear position after the first lap, but instead they're just barely keeping up with that walking pace minimum, Tom.
That's right. Now, Steve Phillips says he likes to ride from the rear position. He would like to come around, but this track is not a good track for a sprinter to do that. It is just... now Mark Gorski moves to the front, and he's starting to accelerate.
And then jumps hard. Now Phillips lost two almost identical races in the semifinal, trying to come from behind unsuccessfully. He finds himself in that rear position right now. Mark Gorski not up to full speed, keeping the sprint short. Phillips starting to run on him right now. Moves up the track to open a little bit more of a gap and then swings down. He's got the acceleration, a little bit of it off the banking. Now he's trying to come around. Gorski and Phillips in a drag race. Phillips getting the best of it, yes. Steve Phillips of the Coors Light Racing Team takes the first ride in this men's match sprint final for third. Prix of cycling, and we're getting ready, I think, for what has become our favorite event in some ways, the Keirin. A very exciting race, motor-paced, and we're joined up here in the booth by Team Lycra's coach, former national sprint champion, and Keirin veteran Roger Young. Roger, this Keirin event, I mean, is really an unusual kind of race. You used to ride these things. What's it like? I mean, what is this like? This is weird, wild.
Well, it's like the Roman arena. For me, it put everything together. It had the speed, the tactics, and the bike handling ability. So it was complete cycling for me.
So let's take a look at what a Keirin race is all about. The riders draw for a position at the start of the race, 1 through 8, and they line up that way at the starting line. Then a motorcycle swings into place in front of them, and they fight for their position behind the motorcycle, and it has no bearing really on the positions they drew at the start of the track. It just gives them an advantage. The motorcycle swings off with a lap and a half to go, so the final lap and a half up at full speed, flat out to the line. The first rider across the finish line wins this thing, and here's how we cover it with a special camera mounted on the motorcycle just ahead of the riders, and it shows the battle going on behind that motor-paced machine. This is what it looks like. No bike riders in sight yet. Rest assured they soon will be as the motorcycle circles the track, getting ready for the start of the Keirin. It's 5 laps altogether. The last lap and a half without the motorcycle once it's paced them up to speed. Now, we have Team Lycra in this race, Roger Young. 4 of your riders, shall we say. What's the game plan, Coach? What are we looking at?
Well, what you're not going to see in the beginning of the race is any Team Lycra riders. They're going to drop back, congregate into a group of 4. Then you're going to see Jim Pollock come over the top just as the motorcycle pulls off. He's going to pull in front of the field and try and hold the field off. Meanwhile, the real train is coming over the top with Aaron Hartwell, who just broke the world record for the 3-lap race, the kilometer, 1:07. And he's going to be pulling from 500 meters as soon as the motorcycle pulls off. He's going to be leading out Bob Livingston with Brian McDonough on Livingston sweeping. Now, everybody knows what they're going to do. This is going to be interesting because they pulled it off in Houston with Livingston winning, and everyone else on the track, especially Berryman, the former national sprint champion, and Mark Garrett, an up-and-coming sprinter, those guys both know what's happening out there.
So that's the game plan on paper. The gun fires, the field comes in behind the motorcycle. Thomas, normally the positions right behind the motorcycle would appear to be an advantage. But Roger's telling us that his guys are going to stay away from the back of the bike and set it up for the later laps.
Well, that's right. With 4 guys, they really don't have to. They don't have to fight for the position at the front. They have the advantage of having the strength in numbers. And Roger, you talked about the last rider sweeping. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, what basically it is, everybody knows that there's going to be a big lead out. In other words, Hartwell is going to sacrifice himself for Bob Livingston and Brian McDonough. Now, we don't want, just in case Hartwell gives out too soon, we don't want a competitor getting a slingshot off Livingston. So we're putting a teammate in place on Livingston's wheel. Livingston set up for the win. And that teammate on Livingston's wheels, Brian McDonough, and he's going to see that no one gets behind Bob and gets that slingshot off him, just like in NASCAR.
So the last rider we're looking at right now is McDonough, the sweeper. Just ahead of him is Livingston, but right behind the motorcycle, as we look at them, on the right is Army Armstrong, Tom Armstrong of the Wheaties Schwinn team. On the outside, Mario Pons from Ecuador. On the left, they are right behind the motorcycle, and Team Lycra's all congregated at the back. 4 yellow helmets, and the way you tell them apart is which one has the yellow and black shorts on, I guess. All right.
Now, you know what's going to happen is the Schwinn riders, the Schwinn rider knows what's going to happen. Everybody's going to try and spread out and keep the Lycra team from coming over the top. It looks like they're not going to be able to do it. Mario is going to come up and try to force Pollock from successfully coming over the top, but because the motorcycle's in the way, they can't go anywhere. Pollock comes over the top, and now he's going to back everybody out of there. Watch the 3 guys coming over the top. McDonough is swept out. It looks like Garrett took Livingston's wheel, so this is real dangerous for us.
So Aaron Hartwell, there's still a lot of bumping going on. Hartwell is taking the lead right now. Mario Pons sitting in second spot. Team Lycra.
Garrett's got the hot position. He's coming over the top. He's going to win the thing.
Mark Garrett coming 3 high around the outside. Look at the speed that he shows, and it's so short to the finish line that nobody's going to overtake him. Mark Garrett launching to the line. The young man from Alhambra, California, riding for Team Montrose. Surprises the tactics from the coach here and Team Lycra to take the Kieran final. Mark Garrett, all alone, no team to help him, took advantage of the tactics by the others.
Okay, where Garrett won the race.
Let's take another look at it right here.
Okay, here's where Garrett wins the race. He pushes McDonough out of the position. This is the last